In this short video guide, we're going to talk about dynamic topology or Dyntopo or Dynamesh. It's also called in ZBrush, which is a particular tool that will help us to sculpt essentially, so to create more organic shapes and models in Blender. So all I'm going to do here is just start with a simple cube as is usual in Blender. So you usually find a cube like this, and we can work with this right away. Now, if you don't know how to use Blender, you have problems with these really basic steps, you can check the Blender video course. You will find also Matbox and ZBrush video courses, among others, on the channel. So if I want to sculpt on this model right here, we can go from object mode into sculpt mode. And also here, I've changed a little bit the visualization to make it look better. So I switched from Studio to Matcap, and I've chosen this material right here, which is similar to ZBrush, and it's also better when you need to sculpt because it looks like clay. And also another thing I've done is activate the wireframe. And why? I'm gonna show you this later. I'm gonna explain to you this later. Now I can turn it off and then we will turn it on later, in just a few minutes. So here we have a cube which only has few vertices and few edges and few faces. So we cannot really sculpt on this. So if I select the standard draw brush here, or standard draw tool, and I set a radius and a strength, you can see the blue circle that represent the brush. So if I start to sculpt on this, I will only be able to move those few edges, few vertices that I have. So I'm not really doing anything organic. It's just like changing the position of those vertices. So I cannot really do much with this cube as in this phase. So while Dyntopo is important, because I can, while I brush on this, while I sculpt on this, I can create new polygons. Otherwise, I can create new polygons like with remesh, for example. So I can remesh and create new polygons. And now I can see that I can do more things on this cube instead of just moving those few vertices. So remesh is something that we need to activate every time. We need to go here and do remesh, and then we need to sculpt, and then we can remesh again. And it's going to recalculate the topology or the geometry of this mesh. So every time we need to do this. If we use Dyntopo instead, it's going to do it automatically as we brush, as we stroke on this. So if I activate Dyntopo, okay, let's say okay. Okay, immediately is going to change here a little bit, the cube. And then when I start to brush, okay, now nothing happens. So let's see what parameters are set here. Now, usually when you start from the beginning, you will have your relative detail, and you will have subdivide and collapse. So this is like the basic that you will find. You can activate or deactivate the smooth shading. Now I'm gonna turn it on. Now let's brush again on this. So you can see that when I brush, I'm not only moving those simple vertices, but I'm creating also new vertices. Now this is where wireframe comes handy. So if I switch into the visualization here of the wireframe, now we can see the difference between this side and this side. So let's just go all the way back to the original cube. So let's see what happens when I go here, choose Dyntopo, and then choose here subdivide collapse, relative detailing, and I start to sculpt. So let's say that I want a smaller brush and I want to sculpt some details right here. There we go. So you can see as soon as I sculpt, it's going to increase the number of polygons. There you go. And if I hold Control, I can go the other way. So let's create like some happy face. There you go. So I don't need to set up the number of polygon before I actually get into sculpting. It's gonna figure out how many polygons I need, and it's gonna create those based on two things: on the size of the brush and on the view. So if I zoom in more, I will be able to create finer details. And if I go from a distance, it's going to create bigger polygons. There you go. So if I zoom in, smaller polygons, more details. If I zoom out, larger polygons and larger details. Okay, now this is the standard right here. And when you want to see your results, you can always come here and turn off the wireframe so you can see better. So you can see here we have more finer details, and here we have bigger details. Now, if we work with Dyntopo and relative detail, this only works with the view. If you want to use also the brush size, you can use the brush detail. So in this case, not only the zoom will affect the size of the polygons, but also the size of or the radius of the brush. So if you increase the size, it's going to create bigger polygons, as you can see. Now, if I go all the way down here, you can see that it's too strong, so it's going to get rid of everything. It's going to like create some really low poly. But if I go really close, I will be able to lose less details. So it depends here on the size of the brush and also how far you are from the mesh. Now you can also use the shift key to smooth a little bit when you want to smooth. Okay, so what other options we have? And by the way, here you can also change the detail percentage. So also this is going to affect how big or how small your detailing will be. So this is pretty low. Let's make it lower so you can see it's not changing too much. And if we make this, sorry, here, this really big, there you go. It's going to lose everything, all the details, because this is too big. So you change this, you change the brush size, everything is going to affect the character here that and the modeling that we are doing. Now, another option we have in Dyntopo is to use constant detail and manual detail. These are really similar. So you can see the description also here, but essentially this one here is gonna fill everything according to the detail size or the resolution that I will set here. And same thing is gonna do the manual detail, but it's not gonna change on each stroke. So it's gonna be like more static. So essentially, we set up the resolution. Now let's activate again the wireframe mode. So I'm gonna go here and activate it. Okay, so you can see that here the resolution is not constant. It's changing depending on the area. So here is more dense. We have more polygons. Here is less dense. We have a less density of polygons. So it's changing essentially depending on the area. So when we do the constant or manual, and we need to set up a resolution for everything. So let's say that I want to set like a resolution to 1. Let's do detail full face. So you can see this is really low and it's getting rid of all those details. So let's go back, Control Z. Let's increase this to 10. There you go. So essentially, the more you increase this value, you increase the resolution, which means you're going to have more polygons. But you can see it's constant right now. So there are some areas that are a little bit more detailed, but they maintain the same level of detailing. And this is even more. So let's say that we want like 5. There you go. So everything now, every polygon is of the same size. So in some areas we lost some details and everything is low poly again. So let's go back, Control Z. Okay, so another thing you can do is use the sample. You can do sampling. So if I click there, I can see what the resolution is in there. So you can see that right here is 62. And if I click again here, it's 12. So I always mistake a little bit between Remesh and Dyntopo, but they do a similar job, but they're a little bit different here on the details. So when I have one resolution, I can then fill everything with that resolution. Let me just go back and let's turn this on. Make sure it's on, of course. Another thing, you cannot use Dyntopo and Remesh simultaneously. You need to work with one or the other, otherwise one is going to deactivate the other. So if I take this now, okay, this is 51 and I want to do a detailed flop feed with that resolution. There you go. So it's going to take a little bit, but it's going to now have a lot of detail and I can sculpt on everything. And now I want to turn off the wireframe so I can see better. And I can smooth everything by holding Shift, or I can use also here the smooth brush so I can get rid of some of these issues. There you go. So this is just examples to show you how it's going to work. And you saw that we started with a simple cube and we created all these details right here. So this is the power of Dyntopo or Dynamesh. Now there are some extra parameters here, but essentially when you do subdivide collapse, you can see here that it's going to subdivide the long edges and collapse the short edges to refine the mesh detail. If you only use one or the other, it's going to do, well, either subdivide the longer edges or collapse the shorter ones. So usually this one here is better. So I guess this is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy also the other videos that you find in the channel. And if you want, you find other guides and courses about Blender, about character design, about 3D modeling. So subscribe, stay updated. And also if you want to thank us and support us, please join the channel as a supporter. This is going to be all. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video guide.